All right, so the first part's easy because all it's talking about is the square root, right? But on your cards, I had you guys write down cube roots as well, right? So the square root you should be able to do, right? We've been doing that for a couple days. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to focus on the bottom part, which talks about a cubed root. Okay? So it says to find each cube root. So if you look at what I gave you, or what you guys wrote down, a cube root is x cubed. Okay? X times x times x. So this time it's the number times itself times itself. 3 times. Okay? So if we look at 1, it's going to be 1 times 1 times 1. Okay? So 1 is a perfect cube. It's also a perfect square. It's a special number because it can be 1 to the 4th is still going to be 1. 1 to the 5th is still going to be 1. 1 doesn't change, right? 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 will always be 1. But then we have some other numbers. So let's look at negative 125. Is 125 a cubed root or cube? Does it have a cubed root? Look at your cards. What's the cube? 5, right? So it's going to be 5 times 5 times 5. But do you notice that there is a negative sign inside here? Right? Negative 125. So does 5 times 5 times 5 equal negative 125? No. What if I said negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5? What is that going to give me? Right, so if I did this negative 5, right, times negative 5 times negative 5, that didn't work, it's negative, right? My answer is going to be a negative. Am I correct? Because this times this is a positive, right? A positive times a negative gives me a... Hello, good morning. Are we here? What kind of answer do I get if I multiply negative times negative times negative? I can't hear. It's a positive? Okay. This times this is going to give me a positive or negative? It's positive. So this is going to be positive 5. What is positive 5 times negative 5? It's a negative. So when I have a cubed root and it's negative inside the radical, it's going to be a negative number. So if you remember when we did the negative outside the square, what kind of answer can I have? What's my answer going to be? Negative square root of 36. What's it going to be? Say it again, Matthew. Is it negative 6? Yes, it's negative 6, right? But what about 49? What's my answer going to be? Really? Just 7? What did I say about a number that doesn't have a negative sign? Christian? Okay, let me ask you. What is negative 7 times negative 7? What is negative 7 times negative 7? It's positive 7? What is it? Positive 64? It's positive 49, right? So that'll work. What about, what's positive 7 times positive 7?
49.
Okay, so what could my square root of 49 be?
7 or negative 7.
Plus or minus 7. Do you guys remember that? So my answer is going to be positive or negative 7. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
No, you don't. Okay, so what about, so when it's negative outside, then it can only be negative 6, right? Question?
It's a 1, right? Positive.
Okay, don't forget, wait, don't, Christian, please don't get ahead of me. Stay with me. Okay, so now I'm looking at cube roots, but this time there's a square inside, or a negative inside. So that means I can only have one possible answer. Okay? If I multiplied 5 times 5 times 5, what am I going to get? Positive 125, right? So my answer cannot be 5. What does my answer have to be? Negative 5. My answer is going to be negative 5. It can't be positive 5, because that's not going to give me negative 125 inside the radical. It has to be negative. Does that make sense to you right now? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Because you're looking at me like deer in the headlight. Yes or no?
Yes.
So let's look at this one over here. It's asking me for the square root. If you notice, there's nothing here. There's no number. That's how I know it's a square root. Is there a square root of negative 148?
No.
I can probably do an approximate answer or an exact answer, but it's not a perfect square, right? And then let me ask you something. If it's a square, can I, let's say I'm going to multiply negative 12 times negative 12. What does that give me?
Negative 12 times negative 12.
Negative 144? It gives me positive 144, right? What if I multiply 12 times 12? What does that give me? Positive 12 times positive 12. What does that give me? I hear whispering, but I don't hear actual answers. So let's be loud and proud about our responses here. It gives me positive 144. So do either of those answers get me anywhere close to this negative 148 underneath my radical? Does it? Do any of those give me a negative? So there is no, there's no root. No root. You can't do it for this one. It doesn't work. It might work for my cube roots. Now look at this one here, 125. What is the number that's right here? What is that number? Hello? It's a 3. So it's asking me for a cubed root. That's telling me how many times that number is going to multiply times each other. Okay? So it has to be negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25, right? Positive 25 times negative 5 is going to be negative 125. And that's what I need to have under here. So it can work for my cube roots. It just has to work, right? So you can have an approximate or an exact answer here. Okay? Does that make sense? You understanding the difference between no root here and a negative 5 as your root here. So my answer for this cube root of negative 125 is negative 5. Do you understand? And there's some big numbers here, but I think they are on the sheet. So You got your card there? What is the cube root of 3375? So what is my answer going to be for this one? Is it really? It's going to be plus or minus 15. Or you can say 15 and negative 15. But it's either one of these two numbers. It's not just 15. Is it? Am I right? Think about it. What's the number here? 3. Okay? So if I'm multiplying, you guys weren't listening. 15 times 15 times 15, my answer is going to be positive, right? But if I multiply negative 15 times negative 15 times negative 15, what's my answer going to be? So, can it be negative 15? It can?
No.
It cannot be, right? Because I'm looking for a positive here. So my answer has to be positive 15. It can only be positive 15. It can't be negative because it's a cube. So you really have to pay attention to whether it's a square, where there's nothing, or a cube. The number here is going to tell you. You have to understand the negative rules when you're multiplying. Negative times negative is positive. Negative times positive is negative. So if you're, let's say it's a fifth root. Can I have a negative number here? Yes, because it's an odd number root. If it was a fourth root, could I have a negative number in here? No, because it's even number. Does that make sense? Are you guys understanding what I'm saying here? Even my own head is jumbled, so I want to be clear to you. Do you understand? Yes, no, maybe so?
Yes.
Okay, I need some affirmation from y'all. Okay, so let's look at 29 because it's a little different. Is there a perfect square of 49?
No.
There's not?
Wait, 49?
Square.
Oh, square.
Is there? What is it? Is there a perfect square of 100?
Oh, yes.
Is the negative inside or outside? So what's my answer? Okay. A fraction, you're going to do exactly like you would a whole number. You're just going to look at each part of the fraction individually. Okay? Does that make sense? Cube roots? A little different, but not much. You have your cheat sheet. Do not lose your cheat sheet. If you want to memorize these, go right ahead, but don't lose your cheat sheet. Okay? Any questions on what you have to do today? Questions? You guys understand what to do? Fist of 5. I know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I know what to do. Jasmine? Is that a 1? It's a 4. Okay. All right? Okay. Get to work. We're going to stop about 10 minutes early. Get to work.